Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today on Mergers and Acquisitions. We got a big crowd today. I'm glad to see you all out there. And tell you what's going on this week is I wanted to talk a little bit about getting money together. Now, this is something that we're actually doing ourselves right now in our startup. We're raising $350,000, although we have reached commitments for that. And the person that I'm working with, David Lambert over in San Francisco, has been talking to Travis about possibly going to 500,000 since we got the 350 so easily. But I got to tell you what, it took a long time to get it done. It's a good thing that I had some money in the bank to get Auto kept up and moving, the little startup that we're doing, because we actually now have been in business for about a year and a half. And other than a few small investments from some of our current accounting firms that we've done business with, it took us a long time to get this done. So here's what I've discovered. If you think about needing money, you want to always remember what Mark Twain said. When you need a friend, it's too late to make one. And if I had enough cash flow in the bank to run AutoKept, which is now becoming Talk accounting, if I had had enough money in the bank to stay in business for 4 or 6 months, we would have failed. So it was, we got really lucky that I had sold our home health care company, and that put a couple of $100,000 into the coffers for this project, and that kept us alive until we could get this done. So, but today what we're going to do is talk about lining up money now before you need it. And this is something that every business owner should be working on all the time, is making sure they have access to capital. I wish I had known this and how critical it was when I was in my 20s and really going from business to business at a rapid rate, because I think that we could have done much bigger deals. I was talking to a business author, a guy that writes business books last year, and he said, well, tell me about the kind of businesses that you buy and sell. And I said, well, now most of them are in the $100,000, $300,000, $800,000 range. And he looked at me and says, that's ridiculous. You should add a zero to every one of those. Why are you doing deals that size? And, you know, I was a little chastised and I didn't reply to him, but I thought later, well, the reason is because I never really spent any time thinking about how to round up capital before I needed it. So that probably would have been a good idea if I had done that over the years. Now, what I'm going to show you today is mostly taken from an article by Ian Atkins, who is a business writer on finance. And we're going to talk about ways to round up money for buying out one of your competitors or buying a distressed business. And I will send you a copy of this video recording. And so that if you need to look at this little spreadsheet that Ian made up, you can drill down on it for more details. And but it's a good starting point. And the things we're going to chat about today are something SBA loans, bank loans, seller financing, homeowner, home equity lines, and then going to family and friends, of course. But something that I had not considered in the past, and that's dipping into the pension plan for a business startup, which I had always been told by pension people that, yeah, you can set up a defined benefits pension plan and at your age move lots of money into it, but you cannot use the money in your own business. And I've discovered that that's not exactly that's an alternative fact, as the news CNN would say this week. And so let's talk about the generating money and ways that we can get it. Now, of course, the easiest one is to borrow money against collateral that you already have, which is like a homeowner's line of credit. And you can usually get 80% of the equity in your home out in a HELOC. I will tell you that my wife does this constantly. She makes sure that all of our real property is financed to the max all the time and reevaluates this every year, refinancing our property or taking out a bigger HELOC. And her theory is that we can use we're getting the money so cheap now at 4%. We can use money in other places more efficiently. And B, if you own a home and uh, if you own a $500,000 home and you got $490,000 of loans against it, you're not going to be you're not going to be a target for predators. And of course, we're always all have to be aware that there are predators, creditors, and tax collectors nipping at our heels every day, all the time. That's just a fact of life today, that you better figure that everyone else out there is going to try to figure out how to steal something from you. But you can get 80% of your equity in cash, and this is something that it's probably wise to always have sitting there available. You don't necessarily have to take the money out. She doesn't take the cash out most of the time, but she makes sure that we do have the lines of credit on the record. Other assets, if you have other assets, you can borrow about 50% against those, like antiques or classic cars. They're a little bit harder to get the loans put together. Sometimes you'll have to go into the secondary market to do that. But my Chevrolet pickup, which is worth about $20,000, if I chose to, I could probably get a quick loan on it for $10,000 immediately. That would just be an example. If you have other real estate holdings, you can get a 75% loan to value on those. But here's something interesting. Income streams. Now, this is what hedge funds do. A hedge fund will develop an income stream. If they have an apartment building that's generating $10,000 a month in net profit, they don't use the 10,000. They go out and say, now what can I buy with that revenue stream? And can I go out and buy another asset that will generate 8,000 a month in profit? And once I have that 8,000, can I go out and buy a third asset that will generate 6,000 in monthly profit? And they keep using the same asset over and over. Banks do this. Banks can actually use the same loan, which, a loan to a bank is their collateral, their assets. They can use that loan 20 times. So if they loan you 100,000, they can go back to the Federal Reserve and borrow 2 million. They have to do it graduatedly, but that will lead to another $2 million of loans. So that's why banks are so excited to get your checking deposits, because that checking deposit rolls into so much more money for the bank. So if you have rental income or annuity income, if you've got a previous business you sold on monthly payments, or if you're receiving royalties for anything, that money can be used to pledge against a loan for a business. And you never know about other collateral. I think this was in 2001. I had a ranch in Wyoming, and my brother-in-law came out and he goes, these trees are worth over $1 million if you cut them down. And I thought, well, who would ever want to cut down all the trees? It was my ranch was in the mountains of Wyoming and surrounded by trees. But I kept thinking about that over and over until I thought, well, I went down to Wells Fargo and I said, I want to borrow against the trees on my property. I want to pledge that as collateral. And I was able to take out an $800,000 loan on that standing timber and never cut the timber down. But I was able to take out a loan, and I used that. I got the loan for 8%, and I used that loan to buy a 150-unit apartment building that generated 11% return. And so it turned out that I came out ahead. The apartment complex went up about 10-20% in value over the next 4 or 5 years, and I was able to sell that apartment building and then pay the loan off, and ended up out of the deal with, not a lot of money, maybe $100,000 over a 3-year period of net profit on the whole deal. But it's money that I would have never made if I had not realized I had a standing asset here, which totally surprised me. I didn't know that you could borrow money against standing timber. It it was just an accidental comment by my brother-in-law, who happens to be a forester in Alaska. Now, the next area that and these are things, I would make a list. I like lists, and if you came into the barn where I work, you'd see on the wall lots of lists. A list of my top 40 potential whale clients, the people that might spend $10,000 a month or more with us. You'll see a list of people that we have talked to that we think will become grade A clients, and you'll see a list of people that we've talked to or want to talk to that might fund some project someday. And this goes into friends and family, which is, excuse me, the most common way to borrow money for a business venture is to go to people that already know you. And they don't have to really be family. Of course, borrowing money from your family is always dangerous. But you want to start the ball rolling today. And here's what I do whenever I'm in conversation with somebody that I think may have the wherewithal or the interest or the boredom, and they're looking for something exciting. And I say, I buy broken businesses, I fix them up, and then I resell them. And if I ever have a good deal, do you want to hear about it? And what a great question, because you can tell by how quick they answer if they really have an interest. They go, well, yeah, I suppose I want to hear about it. You might ask a few follow-ups, but generally if they like doing those kind of deals, then they're enthusiastic about the answer. Yeah, tell me about it. And, I always tell them I don't have anything right now, but I'm looking all the time. And sometimes I come on really good deals, but they require more money than I can put together. Do you want to hear about it? And I try to keep a list of people like that on the wall over here, and I keep them informed. So if maybe 3, 4, 5 times a year, I just call them on the phone and say, this is what I looked at. Here's why I didn't take it. Here's why I didn't take it. Here's why I didn't take it. I want them to know that I'm very thoughtful about looking at deals. So when a good one does come by, they're anticipating my call. And so I build that relationship, and I keep them informed of the deals I'm looking at. But here's one of the downsides of working with friends and family, especially people that I just meet at a Kiwanis club or at the cigar shop. They're usually looking for about a 25% annual return on their money. So you've got to be aware that it might be as a loan, it might be a equity deal where when it sells out, but they want to see that 25% return on average. That's pretty much what we have run into. Now, seller financing, this is my most favorite is seller financing when I'm dealing with a distressed business. And of course, in our world, a distressed business is one that is not making money, or the owner's totally bored to death, something's wrong, and then that's almost always 100% seller financing. And also if I see a business that's been for sale for more than a year, because that guy's he's not getting any traction in the market. He either asked too much, or there's something wrong with the business, or it's in a dirty business that people don't realize what the opportunities are. Dirty businesses, as you know, are my favorite. I'm trying to get my son right now to buy a construction cleanup business, a salvage business over in Arizona. And the guy's had it for sale for more than a year. He wants $150,000 for it. The business actually generates about $100,000 a year in profit. But nobody wants it because no one wants to be in charge of a whole bunch of people that don't show up for work every day out there swinging hammers and crowbars and tearing down buildings and then scrapping the lumber and the kitchen appliances for sale. But it's a very profitable business, and it's dependable. There's always going to be deconstruction going on. And I've got but on the first two lines of this slide, it says you can set the price or you can set the terms. And that's one of my favorite things to say to somebody who is selling something. And I'll just let you go first. And I'm going to give you an exact example that just happened here this week. There's 5 acres right behind our little ranch. And I would like to own the 5 acres because it slopes on a hill going up behind me. If anyone ever builds a big house on the top of that hill, they're going to be able to see right down into our swimming pool area. I'd prefer that not to happen. And so we haven't even built the swimming pool yet, but I know where it's going to go, and I can see the line of sight. The land's worth about $250,000, and the owner came by the other day to see if I had any interest in buying it. And I gave him this line. I said, well, I'll let you set the price or I'll let you set the terms. What do you want to do? He said, well, I want $500,000. And I'm looking, oh, Lord. I've already run the comps because I knew he was going to come by one of these days. And at $250,000, we're at the high end, the very high end of any comps in the county for that dirt. So I made him an offer. I said, okay, I'll pay you your asking price. However, it's going to be on seller financing, and I'll give you 10% down, and I'll pay the balance over 30 years at 3%. And, of course, he just jerked back and looked at me incredulously. I think it was the 3% number that threw him off. Or the 30 years and no offer for a balloon. But now we're in negotiations. And now he's going to come back and offer a different number. But if he does take that deal, then I'm going to pay $1,900 a month in payments on this land over the next 30 years, just so I can have privacy on my dirt, on my yard. Is it worth the $1,900 a month? And to me, it is. So I would pay the $1,900 a month just to know that I've got this buffer, this privacy, and the other interesting thing is that'll put me over the county limitation in Pima County. You cannot have a horse operation that operates as a horse boarding or horse training unless you have excess of 10 acres. And that'll put me over the number so I can combine the property and then get permitted so I can turn our place that we currently have into an additional revenue stream. So it's actually, that was my other motivation. It opens up more opportunities when you have enough acres out here in Pima County. Okay, now those are interesting things. Now I'm going to tell you something brand new that I just learned, and that's a rollover for business startups out of a pension plan. And this is something I've been specifically told you cannot do, that if you own more than 50% of a business, you cannot, even in a self-directed pension plan, you cannot direct money into your own business. But there is a company called Guidant, and it's Guidant, Guidant.com, and they're doing this right now. And they're said this is the flow chart on how they put it together. So what they do is roll over your existing retirement plan to a new 401k that's owned by a new corporation, and I suppose that's the qualifiers there. You're not the owner of the new corporation. But then you can borrow out of that 401k or defined pension benefits pension plan and invest it into your business, whether you're buying a business or your existing business. And then, of course, the new corporation owns the stock certificates in that business. I love this idea, especially if you're over 50 years old and you can set up a defined benefits pension plan, which allows you to take an incredible percentage of your income and park it in the tax-deferred accounts, and to be able, until you're 70, I guess. I think you can go to 70 and a half now without paying income tax on that money, or start the distribution. So if you're over 50, what a brilliant thing to do, to set up a defined benefits defined benefit pension plan and then borrow the money out to buy your next business opportunity. So this is something I have not done, but it is something that I will consider strongly in the very near future. Now, I want to touch on a couple of others. Will the bank loan you money for a business? And, it's really going to depend on the type of business. I hate the word depends. In my world, depends is well, I shouldn't say in my world. In my, depends is a diaper. And I hate the word. So it's really easy to borrow money from the bank if you're a medical office, an accounting office, a law office. It's impossible if you are in the gambling business, if you own a casino or a bar or a gentleman's club or anything like that. You can forget the bank. At restaurants, you can forget the bank. They want nothing to do with businesses that have a high failure rate like used car lots. They're not going to touch that. So it's worth going to the bank at the very least just to get the ball rolling, find out what they're thinking about. You are going to have a 680 credit score for going to the bank or the SBA. And here's the big questions that the bank will ask. Will the current cash flow from the business you want to buy make the loan payments? Now, in a distressed business, the answer is no. So that means you can forget going to the bank. So because the current business is, if it was making cash, if it was doing well, it wouldn't be up for sale. So banks are off the table when it comes to buying distressed companies. And so that's going to be one of their big questions. So if I'm buying a business, does its current cash flow, and then does the borrower have a backup cash flow to repay the loan? Now, here's the interesting thing about working with banks. They not only want to see that the new business is going to make the payments, they want to know that if the new business fails, your current income stream is going to be sufficient to make the payments. So you've got to have two cash flow streams to get the bank to loan you money. And I know that doesn't seem fair or realistic, but that's just the way the banks work. And the other question the bank's going to have is, what's the risk factor in the business you have? Not the business you're buying, but what's the risk factor in the business you've already got? How do we know that it's not going to drag the business we're loaning money on down the tube? So what all this amounts to is banks are difficult. And if you go to a bank, even if you have a long relationship with them, they'll give you a credit card. They'll give you a credit card with a $50,000 credit limit while you're standing at the teller line. I don't understand this, but they will not loan money easily on a business. That's just the facts of life. But there is the SBA. And I will tell you, if you work with the SBA, it can take it can take 6 months easily to nail an SBA loan down. And they are going to bolt every asset you own to that loan. Just so you know, their standard statement is sufficient collateral. Their standard loan form is everything. So they'll not only want to attach this business, but they're going to ask for a lien against your house, your current business, and if you own if you own $1 million worth of trees in Wyoming, they're going to want to attach those too. That's just the way they are, and they are going to require a 10 to 30% down payment. Just so you know. Now, a lot of people go to the SBA, especially if they're buying a successful business. Because you're going to have to come up with more money to do that, and so the SBA is a favorite for that, and it can often be a blend of these things, using part of the money from loaning against my HELOC, some of it from friends and family, some of it from seller financing, some of it from the SBA. It's not one vendor pays everything. It's really common to have 4 or 5 different sources of payment when you're buying a business. And then the last one I want to talk to you about today is venture capital. Now, this is something we hear a lot about nowadays because there are so many businesses running around, startups especially, calling on venture capitalists. Well, I happen to have some experience at this. I've got almost 2 years of experience at working with venture capitalists, and I can tell you that almost all of it has been very negative. They're very difficult to get into because they get tens of thousands of offers every year, and many of these guys are only funding 1 out of 100 to 1 out of 400 of the offers that come through. And here is what happened with us. We found a loan or a venture capital package guy. And I'm not going to tell you who he is until our deal is completely signed, sealed, and delivered, and our cash is in the bank, because we're in the middle of raising money right now. And as I told you at the beginning of the conversation, we now have commitments at 350, and we're poking around to see if we should go to 500. We're taking the money as a loan, a 5% interest loan, which is convertible to stock ownership. And here's what their thinking is: that the company doesn't make it, then you've got to give us some money back. By make it, though, that means that someone wants to buy auto kept out. Now, a venture capitalist doesn't want to touch anything they can't see a 300% return on within 5 years. So, and realistically, they really want companies that have the potential for a tenfold. So if you take $100,000 from a venture capitalist, you better realize they're expecting to get $300,000 to $1 million back, or they're not going to touch the deal. And the reason their requests or their requirements are so difficult is because, A, they're loaning money into situations that the SBA or a bank won't touch, and your friends don't have enough money to do this. So they know they're the only source. And the second reason is they know that 8 out of 10 deals they do aren't going to work out. So they're really focusing on only working with companies they have a very comfortable feeling that the company's going to sell. And what we're planning on doing with AutoKept is getting the monthly revenue to $500,000. Our monthly revenue right now is a little over $40,000. And so when it gets to $500,000, they can sell that company, and they'll start working on the sale. The day they write the check to us, they'll start working on our exit plan for us. And they expect the company to sell for 5 times annual gross revenue. Now, high-tech startups, the valuations are nuts. When we're going out and buying a failed business, usually all we're doing is paying for the assets. If we're buying a profitable business, we're paying 3 times annual income. But in high-tech financial-related startups, it's 5 times gross billing. So the numbers are just phenomenally different. But maybe it's because they're so difficult to do too, and tens of thousands of ideas come up. So this is not an avenue that I would expect you to have success in, and it's disheartening. You will get told no more times than you heard it in high school when you tried to ask out the prom queen. So if you do go in this venture capital direction, though, rather than pitching deals yourself to venture groups or investment clubs, that kind of thing, we didn't find success until we found 2 guys, one in St. Louis and one in San Francisco, who specialized in packaging venture deals together, and they had a list of proven investors who like to do high-tech startup deals, and they knew people that would invest $25 or $100 or $150,000. And so we just turned it over to one of these packagers, and we didn't pay any upfront fees. He's just participating in the deal. But he found all the investors for us, and he brought them on the phone. We talked to him, and interestingly, 9 out of 10 that we talked to on the phone for an hour agreed to put in anywhere from 25 to 150 into the loan package. So it's a lot more difficult. We would never have got there if we did not have that 40,000 a month in revenue. It was lucky that we actually generated 45,000 in profit in our first calendar year. And we're seeing monthly growth. So we had a lot already going for us. If we were still at the dream stage where I got this great idea on this napkin, do you want to give me money? Then I think it would be impossible to go the venture capitalist route. I know lots of people put a lot of time in this because they keep reading about the done deals. But it is a difficult route to go. So with all that said, I hope that that gives you some ideas. The biggest thing I would take away from this today's conversation is that you can use pension money, call these people and ask them about it. I don't have any association with them or anything whatsoever. I have not even talked to them. But I think this rolling over a KEO into a business startup is great. I love it. And the other thing I would take away from this today is start finding people that have an interest in playing this merger and acquisition game. It can be a lot of fun. Fixing up a broken business and reselling it in 2 years. That's been my average time is 2 years. I can't seem to figure out how to get them fixed in 3 months. So I usually own them for 24. And then and share some of the profits with them. You know, after you've done a couple with them, you're not going to need their money anymore. So you don't have to lose that 25% a year that you're going to have to pay them on their capital. Okay, very good. If you have any questions, nobody typed any questions in while we're going through today. So if you have anything you'd like to ask me about this, just send me an email at caseytruby@msn.com. I can put that on the screen here. I don't think it's anywhere. I'll type that in right now. And we'll make sure that everybody gets a copy of this today when Caitlin gets the recording posted. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'll look forward to talking to you in a couple of weeks. Bye now.